Hello, and welcome to a Q&A video. If you don't know who I am an animator type guy. I have made some Lego Batman animations, and I'm just here to really simply answer some questions that you, the viewer, may or may not have had. This video isn't going to be anything really crazy or anything. It's just going to be a real simple video of me hopefully answering these questions to the best of my ability. So for reference, a couple of months ago, I asked for some questions, and since then I have asked for new questions more recently, but I'm going to do my best to try to answer a little bit of both. So just know that these first questions are in response to the first episode, if that makes sense. How long did this take from conception to the finished product, and how did you achieve certain shots like the one-take action scene in the chemical factory? Conception of finished product was like around 2 years. I think it was technically like a year and 8 months or something, but it's just easier to round up to 2 years. And the big one-take action scene in the chemical factory was shot over the course of, I think, 2 weeks consecutively. Personally, I think it was the most fun thing that I shot the entire episode. I think it's one of the better shots in the entire episode, and apparently people agree. My cat's wanting to say hi. You want to say hi? Wow. Say hi. Queso is joining us for this, so... Alright. I'd say I have the basics of stop motion down, yet what I'm struggling with the most is lighting and set design. How do you approach those? The basic answer, of course, is try to make your set feel lived in. I think if you sort of put yourself in the mindset of what would characters in this particular set have to deal with if they are walking around in there, I think that's a good way to approach it like that. However, I think it's also important to think about what you as an animator need to be able to access. For instance, you don't want a set that's too small to where you can't reach your fingers in there. As far as lighting goes, I think that a big thing for me is like try not to just use like raw like desk lamps. If you can add some wax paper to it or sort of diffuse it a little bit to make it a little more subtle, I think that will help it stand out and also give it a little bit more atmosphere, if that makes sense. Crisis asks, what was the toughest and/or least favorite part of the video to make? Definitely the scene where, spoiler alert, Joker is explaining his plan to the millionaires. I think that was some of the hardest to get through just because there's a lot of talking, there's a lot of dialogue, but at the same time, Joker is very like expressive. I didn't want him to be a stoic character that just sits in one place. Joker, of course, is constantly moving his arms in, crazy directions and is swapping out tons of facial expressions. Not to mention, there's also a lot of continuity to deal with there, such as the conveyor belt or the positioning of Harley or Joker. I've got How did you get this much hair on me, dude? Okay. This is my new sweater, too. Thank you. Okay, everyone say bye to Queso. Bye-bye. What was your inspiration for the plot, including why you use Creeper, as he's an obscure character, and do you plan on expanding the series? I knew for the first episode I wanted to use Joker. That just felt right in my book, but I knew that if Batman was going to be teaming up with someone, sort of like they do on Batman Brave and the Bold, that it would have to be someone that would be a good foil to Joker, and still thematically fitting. At some point I started thinking about Creeper, and I realized that he was a good matchup with Batman's help to fight against Joker. And furthermore, I started looking into Creeper, and I started to realize that he's my favorite superhero, probably, period. And now I'm kind of known as the Creeper guy. People tend to call me quite a creep myself. So that's pretty cool. And as far as the series goes, I have a notes app full of ideas for further episodes. I don't know if I'll get around to making them all, of course, but there are definitely plans in the works. It just takes time, really, to get them all fleshed out the way that I want, and it's because I'm so particular about everything that I do. Prime Bricks asks, what's something you plan on doing differently in the second film? It's an episode. Okay. But again, this was prior to the second episode being out. In particular, I think I improved a little bit on the animations of the extras in the background. There's not too many in the second episode, but I feel like more characters stay busy and it feels a little more alive than some of the extras of the first one. I also think some of the set design is better in the second one, but that's definitely due to the fact that it's more focused. It's only in one environment as opposed to the various ones from the first episode. How long did it take to have the whole script planned out? The whole script planned out took about a month, but actually physically writing it took I don't know, like 2 to 3 days maybe. I'm a firm believer in the idea that if you want to write something, the only thing that is stopping you in terms of time is literally like how fast you can physically type it. Because when you're just so pumped and so ready for something, that's all you can think about. How did you come up with the plot? Any particular source of inspiration, or was it just some damn good creativity? Yeah, the plot was definitely drawn from many sources of Batman shows over the years. Of course, Batman the animated series, and more obviously Batman Brave and the Bold, but even some of my favorites like The Batman from 2004. Definitely a big thing that sort of sparked it all is the show Forensic Files. Because it's a true crime show, a lot of times they have to rely on DNA to pair up the culprits to the crime scenes. I looked into it, and as far as I can tell, I don't really think that anyone has ever specifically tackled that specific element of Batman in the comics. So I used that as sort of a starting point for the rest of the plot. How do you get your voice actors? If so, are you looking for any more voice actors? Most of the voice actors are just my friends and family because I want to showcase some of the talented people that I know, but also to have some consistency across mics. I don't want one character to sound like they are, recorded in a different environment, preferably. And as far as voice actors go, right now I'm not specifically looking for anyone, but I am always down to meet new voice acting talent. So that's as much as I can say there. How do you accomplish certain effects like glass shatter or the acid bubble? The acid bubble is just a light illuminating some trans green pieces that are getting shifted around. And then the glass shatter, actually I can demonstrate it. So what I've got here, basically this is like a tab that you would use for a folder separator. What I do basically is I just cut from frame to frame a little bit more glass shattering each time. The cracks get sort of larger, and whenever they start to fall, what I'll do is I'll sort of crinkle it up. Then you can start to see it looks like a piece of glass is cracking. I've never seen anyone else do it that way. That's just my solution. Why was the movie so good? LOL. Actually, my question is, why does Batman have a southern accent? I don't know how to break this to you guys. We're from the South, okay? My cousin voices Batman. His accent, while definitely stronger than mine, it is still so much weaker than the people around us, all right? Our, grandparents and such have such strong southern accents. This is the least bad of it. You guys may not be able to hear it if you're not from the South, but around here, we're the weird ones for not having it as prominently, okay? I just thought he had a good, deep voice for a sort of Kevin Conroy-esque Batman. What camera and editing software did you use? The camera name is
Canon EOS Rebel 7.
And the software is Dragon Frame. I know that one. So, when will the next chapter of the story be published? So, of course, they were likely talking about episode 2. However, episode 3 is already in pre-production. I've already ordered a lot of the Lego pieces that I need for it, and I am finalizing the script now. Cheesy Rats says cheese. Nice. Okay, so that's it for the old questions. We're going to move on to the new ones now. I've seen some asks about new DC character additions, but do you have any plans for crossovers from non-DC characters in content, or some OC? Also, any plans to use weird mediums beside Lego bricks with your animations, clay, origami, etc.? Thank you so much. That was very thoughtful. To answer your questions, the only non-DC characters that I would think I would use, this doesn't really count, but I might use like Batman meets Scooby-Doo, maybe. That's a hard maybe. And then I'd be down to do like a Lego Watchmen crossover. I understand that, Watchmen is part of DC, but it's not part of the main timeline, etc., etc. In terms of other mediums, I really like using, of course, like cotton balls to represent smoke. The clay, I think, would make for a really good Clayface episode. Could you do any behind the scenes videos or tutorials on how you do sets or fight scenes, for example, please? I've tried several times now to make a proper behind the scenes video, and each time it's a miserable failure just because I tend to over-explain clearly. The best that I've come up with thus far is, hopefully by now, you all should see a commentary track from me and Forest Fire 101. I think that does pretty much the same function as a behind the scenes, although I understand the desire to want one. You tend to do long takes with wide shots for fight scenes, which is very impressive because it's very hard, for me at least. You don't see it very often in brick films. What inspires you to make that style of fight scene? I don't know, I can't really explain why I do half the things that I do, new, but I will say that a source of inspiration has always been my first ever exposure to Batman, which was the original Batman 60s movie. The final fight in that is on this big boat, and I have watched that scene so many times. Although it's not one continuous take, I think they just use like a multicam setup. It definitely influences the way that I view how fight scenes are done. I think it's just sort of a way for me to reach out to the audience and say, hey, here's something that's a little different and unique, because I don't want it to feel like these are individual frames of Lego toys. I want them to feel like these are actual people that have sort of choreographed a fight sequence. Oh, and then he also asks, Captain America Civil War or Batman versus Superman? Let's put it this way. One of these movies I saw twice in theaters. The other one is Batman versus Superman. No offense to you BVS heads like Mr. Brick is down here. He says Batman, so. Josh asks, any plans to do more live action stuff? Yes, actually, over the summer, I started shooting an original documentary called Sludge. I got about 50% of the way through shooting it when I just sort of lost motivation to work on it. It's still gonna get done at some point, but for now, I'm just sort of putting it on the back burner, if you will. It has nothing to do with Batman or DC stuff. It's just also in my interests, which there are many of which that aren't Batman, of course. So I hope that whenever that finishes, that you all give it a shot too. This is a crazy question. Someone asked, what are the earliest and/or happiest memories with Batman Legos or Lego Batman? The line of Lego Batman toys that came out in, I think it was 2008. I have such specific fond memories of receiving, building, and playing with all of those sets. And I think I just want to, with my films, episodes, create that same sense of wonder and joy that those sets gave me as a child. These videos are for all ages, of course, but I really want people to feel inspired regardless of whatever age they are. What's your FPS and how do you hide your sticky tack or clay so well? Frames per second is 12, although I definitely need to bump up to 15 at some point. And in terms of hiding the sticky tack, I'm just really picky, and I think that's the way to do it, unfortunately. Like, you may spend, 20 minutes just getting one frame, but if there's too much sticky tack visible in it, I say just redo it with the actual sticky tack hidden. Make more DC stuff. That is not a question. But also, what have I made recently that isn't DC? That's kind of whatever. Hey, Crisis asks, any team-up videos larger than 2 people down the line? The original idea for the 3rd episode was going to be Batman teaming up with Firestorm and Ice. I'm sure you can understand why that would be an interesting combination for Batman to have to work with, but I ended up not using them in favor of someone else that I think will be even better. Thomas asks, what made you want to do brick filming and make Batman brick films? Okay, well, I've been doing stop motion since elementary school, and then I sort of had a resurgence once I got to college. I think I ended up just sort of in this Batman phase where I knew I wanted to make something Batman, but I knew that I didn't have the funds or even really the capability to make it live action, so I resorted to the thing that felt most comfortable to me, at least to be able to achieve what I want to do, which of course is stop motion. And then Kermit asks, also, how's your day? My day has been great. Thank you for asking, Kermit. Life is pretty good right now. I don't have too much to complain about right now, I gotta say. It's not always the case, but right now, I'm great. Thank you for asking. Okay, so that's some of the questions that you all had. I don't know how to end this video, but I do want to thank you for tuning in. Hopefully it wasn't awful. And just expect more coming soon. I've got just a ton of ideas for videos, both Lego Batman and not. Just stay patient with me. I'm a one-man band and I'm pretty slow at it. And thanks for sticking in this far. Let's get back to the tunes. How about that?